the light side arc comes and kills him and they don't explain that? Like, did they summon the golden child? Is the golden child God? Does God come? Does nothing happen?
I don't know.
We need a deeper wiki.
Hey.
Hello.
Usually I will just jump straight into the intro if we have like a ton to talk about.
Uh-huh.
David, it's a clean, easy day today. I got one normal game and one good game.
It's an easy day. Oh, so we're going to have a nice prolonged intro, you're telling me, right?
I'm taking my time. I'm soaking in the intro.
Ooh, you're soaking in it? What does it feel like on your skin? Does it feel like liquidy? Does it feel more viscous? What are we talking about?
My brain reaches for hot tub in this moment, in the intro.
Nice. Yeah. I like that. A hot tub.
It's not too hot. Like, I'm not uncomfortable. And this is only the first hot tub in a series of different temperatured baths. Okay.
You told me hot tub. I was asking about viscosity. You gave me a temperature reference.
I want thickness.
Yeah. What is in this hot tub?
Welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimists video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase. I don't want to talk about the thickness. I don't want to get down with the thickness.
My name is David, and I think it is a valid question. I asked you about viscosity, and you went right past that question and told me about temperature.
Yeah. I mean, water. I'm thinking hot tub, so water thickness.
Okay, water. Okay, great.
I feel like
you can fill a hot tub with anything, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like mud is the only other thing I can conjure that's in like the normal realm of reality here.
Sure. Okay.
What do you think, David? What was your thickness?
I don't know. Maybe butter.
Butter.
A buttery intro, you know.
Butter is such a challenging idea to bathe in.
A nice warm butter hot bath. Butter hot tub.
Are you thinking, okay, so butter has to be a certain temperature to be liquid. Are you thinking that it is liquid, or are you thinking it's still like thick butter? Or slightly melted?
Slightly melted. Why not? Okay,
but not like liquefied butter.
We have established hot tub as a temperature, and that I'd say that a standard hot tub temp is like 104 to 107, somewhere around there.
That would be hot enough for butter to be liquid.
Yeah.
But you're thinking still a little bit like you got to kind of push your foot to get in there.
Maybe at first, and then I can start melting with the butter too. You know?
Oh God, please tell me you've been playing video games.
I want to talk more about butter. I don't know about you.
David wants butter bath.
Little cucumbers on my eyes.
I'm having a nice intro, and David said butter bath.
You're having a good intro? Say less. I'm about to ruin it.
What if you got fully nude into butter? Have you been playing video games though?
I mean, I think that's the implication, isn't it?
I mean, I said bathing, so like we're there. Yeah. Everybody gets it.
Yeah.
I don't think that stepping into a butter hot tub is something that I can do around someone else.
This is something you do secretly in shame?
Not shame, just I need privacy. Like,
okay.
I don't really know what's going to happen in there.
But like a regular hot tub with water, that's fine. But
I've been
a butter
in
hot tub,
before.
who knows what's going to happen?
Who knows? I might have some
to my body, to my
soul. I think it's sort of the bigger question there.
Is it going to become oily, delicious, a little bit of both?
Am I cooking myself?
I mean, you could if it's the same temperature, you could ask the same question with water. It's just more boring cooking with water.
Yeah, but then I don't taste as good. I'm just brining myself at that point.
You're boiling yourself.
Yeah, I guess there's no salt in a hot tub.
No, there probably could be a saltwater hot tub, but I don't know if that would change the
flavor profile of my shoulder. Yeah, you're correct.
Gotta beat that baby up before I put it in the brine.
Of course, yeah.
That's a tough cut of meat, Chase's shoulder.
Have you been playing video games, David? Please deliver me from this segment.
Yeah, okay. I think that's enough of that. That's enough butter for now. We'll circle back. We'll circle back.
I need to return to this thought. I'm not done.
Right. I haven't been playing a whole lot this last week, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've just been kind of sleepy after work, and I've just been going to sleep after work. It's weird.
Dude, sleeping but gaming? Have you gamified sleep yet?
So it's like that movie with Nicolas Cage where he's in everybody's dreams. Did you see that one?
Oh my God, no. What is that?
It's a strangely very like boomerish movie in the end, but no, it's called Dream Man. And Nicolas Cage just starts popping up in everybody's dreams, but then they figure out how to like monetize dreams, and they have people put these bracelets on at night so they can give you ads while you sleep.
Are you thinking of Dream Scenario? Is that the
Dream
movie?
Scenario? That's it. Dream Scenario.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you said gamify sleep, that's what I thought of. It's like, I don't know if I want to game while I sleep. I don't know. Maybe I just want to sleep sometimes.
God, what a weird pull. Did you see this? Did you watch this movie?
Yeah, there was a very interesting scene where he goes into a hot tub full of butter.
If I'm sleeping right now is what's going on. I'm sleeping. I'm in a dream.
Yes.
There's too many connections going on. There are too many tricks and traps.
The thing that Nick Cage is doing in everybody's dream is sitting in a hot tub full of butter, just watching them from the corner.
I came on this call. You told me, no, I'm not playing video games. I just want to talk about butter and Dream Man.
Yeah, pretty much. But really the only thing I've been playing thoroughly still is Elden Ring, Erdtree.
Yeah.
What else is there to say except it doesn't have hot tubs full of butter in it?
Yeah, it does not, huh?
At least I haven't gotten to that part yet. No spoilers, please. Miyazaki loves his poison swamps. What about his hot tubs full of butter?
You've heard of poison swamps. Now, get ready for salty baths.
Ooh. Oh, it's salted butter.
I'm assuming so, yeah.
Oh, okay. But what else is there to say about this? It's Elden Ring, which we've talked so much about. It's great. Mm-hmm. There's still so much that I haven't tapped into yet, which is surprising and kind of intimidating in a way. I'm thinking I'm going to go fight a dragon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the craggy peak in the distance. I finally found my way there because there's this one part in the beginning of like before you go to Castle Ensis, you can take a right. And there's one path that goes up and one that goes down. I just went down that first time and got to the Fort of Reprimand and never circled back to that up path. And then I was like, I think there's a spot I didn't go to over there.
Yep.
And I went back and lo and behold, now I'm in the craggy peak fighting for my goddamn life.
That area is really cool. I really like the design of that space.
It is pretty sweet. Yeah, still rocks on my PlayStation Portal.
Yeah.
Got my PlayStation back to the TV area and then got it wired in with a nice 25-foot Ethernet cable running under the carpet.
Love to see it.
Love to see it. That baby is cooking now. It's great.
Didn't we say that the long wired cable is named Big Style, hence the name of our episode last week?
Oh yeah, it is Big Style. Big Style's here.
Yeah.
Big Style's in the building, being big and styling.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's really a great little device. So I can play Elden Ring wherever I want now. I'm a free man. I'm a free man. I can play it outside on my hammock. I could do that if I wanted. If I'm feeling crazy, you know.
I was gonna say that the contrast between the two moods of relaxing in a hammock and trying not to die in Elden Ring gives me whiplash.
You know, there are a lot of moments in Elden Ring that are kind of relaxing for me.
Interesting.
And a lot of FromSoft games.
In the combat or just like the times where it's like quiet and you're just wandering around a fucked up place?
In the combat.
Sure. Okay. Wow.
Like if I'm going through a dungeon or I'm going through an area with just like regular enemies, I can chill. I'm okay.
Yeah.
None of those enemies strike fear into me with my big hammer and my great shield and my armor. Robert Baratheon is here to fight, but the bosses are a different story, of course.
Yeah.
If you get to a boss, it's like, okay, now it's time to be real. And if I'm somewhere relaxing, like when I was at the beach for vacation, if I got to a boss, I was like, this is too much for me, and I'll just go find somewhere else to go and just muck around in, and just explore and kill random enemies. And I was like, this is perfect. This is all I wanted.
I agree with you. Some of those places are kind of relaxing, or at least like I am better at the game when I am relaxed and patient.
Absolutely.
I'm just letting the game flow through me and not being frightened, not scared, not worried about like, am I going to lose my souls? No problem. Just fight the bad guys. It's okay.
Don't get in your head.
Don't get in your head. Yeah.
Fears the little death, the mind killer. But yeah. And that's really all I have been playing.
Wow.
This past week. It's just been Erdtree and sleeping.
You got any sleeping tricks? I'm like truly terrible at it.
Honestly, I used to be a very bad sleeper. Pretty much like through elementary, middle school, and high school. And I don't know what happened, but one day I just started being able to sleep.
Yeah. I feel like I remember this growing up.
Yeah, it's hard to say what happened exactly. I don't know. I think maybe something changed with my mentality too. I can't really put a finger on it, but I think I just got good at just like turning off the extra noise at night. Just like, I don't need this right now. I just want to sleep, and like feeling how good it is to be in a bed. And then that gets me sleeping.
You do have an ability to sort of like sink into comfort. Like I've seen it happen of like, this chair is comfy and I'm just going to let myself have it.
Have you seen my big comfy chair?
Yeah. I saw you tried to coax your cat into getting on top of it with you.
I did. He didn't want to at that moment, but he does sometimes. He'll come and sleep in between my legs.
He got up there. I saw that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Nice. But yeah, that chair and just like a comfortable place to be. Just once my body feels it, it's like, oh yeah, this is what we've been missing. And it's sleep time. It's sleep time.
I think my fatal flaw is that the moment the light turns off and I know that I am supposed to go to bed, I simply cannot.
It's the expectation that now you are supposed to sleep.
I should be sleeping is the thought that runs through my head most of the time I'm trying to sleep.
You get sleep fright.
It's like, sleep performance anxiety of like, I know that I should be and I'm not and I can't.
Yeah. Instead of being up on stage and just like forgetting all your lines, you go into bed and you turn the lights off and you're like, how do I sleep?
Yeah, which is like, other places I probably should be scared. Like I'd perform for a long time and like we host this podcast, not even an ounce of like fear or worry in those moments. Just kind of like, I'm here. It's okay.
We good.
Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
But, lights go out. Time for me to go to 9-9. No, not going to happen.
Then I started thinking about all the silly things I said a decade ago.
It's definitely silly things and just like busy. My brain is busy. Lots of stuff creeping around in there, Maybe get like a good sleep hygiene, sleep routine going on. Do something like meditation or something before bed. I'm always working on this. I'm always trying to keep up my little routine.
Oh, what's your routine? Hit me with it.
So I promise we'll talk about video games there in a second.
When do you take a hot butter bath? Sorry, continue.
That is the 4th step in my 20-step program.
Nice.
No, it's usually at least a little bit of the foam roller. Just kind of like relax the bod, roll it out a little bit. Then just a little bit of regular stretching to try and correct some of my like desk posture from the day.
Yeah. The war against kyphosis.
Use some of the CeraVe, just kind of wash my face, get a low impact soap on there. Usually we'll go to room, turn on light, hang out, maybe read, do some reading.
Nice.
Anything that's like very fictional and can just kind of get me someplace else is usually the move.
Yeah.
And then white noise machine too is usually the move.
Nice. Does that work for you?
Sometimes.
I don't know. I feel like also my job is just very tiring physically.
Yes, I think that's part of it. I work from home and I barely talk to people. So like, it is, if I need a day where I'm just like, I'm just going to work from the couch and rest my body, I can. And then, come 10 o'clock, my body's like, hey, what have you been resting for? Why are we all ready to go again?
Yeah. No, I had to carry 11 different 45-minute conversations today.
Oh God. Yeah. I also would be sleeping like a baby if that was the option.
Did take like a little nice 10-minute nap before this podcast.
Yeah. No, God. If I had to speak to people, heaven forbid.
Yeah. Just a little blinker.
Can I tell you about the game that I've been playing, David?
Please.
So I've really only been playing one thing. Usually I feel like I have kind of a broader spectrum, but I've been totally enraptured with one specific game.
Hell yeah.
Which is Mother 3, David.
Oh. Did you play 1 and 2?
I played Earthbound, which is Mother 2, technically.
Okay, sure.
There is an earlier version of... There's a Mother 1, but that one never came to the States either, I think. I actually don't know that for sure, but it has not been widely available to me. Whereas like Earthbound is like, yes, this is definitely a game that is available in the States and is like pretty well regarded, I would say. Like that's definitely on people's lists of like definitely best Super Nintendo games, but definitely I've also seen it on like best games period as well. Yeah. I played that last year after many start and stops of trying to play Earthbound. Like I feel like for a long time I was like, I know this is good. I want to like it. And I just couldn't really get past the first hour or so. I don't know what happened, but just like I couldn't get enough friction to keep moving. It was also very hard. Like Earthbound is a pretty challenging game. It really asks you like, you probably will lose a lot. And, that is an expected arc of this game. Mercifully, save states make that a little bit easier of
Sure.
maybe I just go back a little ways and see if I can do this differently, which is what I was using. I think I was playing this on the Switch, Super Nintendo Collection, and that you can use save states on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked it. I thought it was really good and was a version of this kind of Dragon Quest influenced RPG that I thought I wouldn't like, but I really did. I think the tone of it was really wonderful. The kind of grand adventure of it all was really fun. There's this bizarre sci-fi connection that's kind of running through the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's so strange as a video game. This, I think that came out in the mid 90s or something like that. And it's so weird to see a game be that funny and be that playful with tropes of a genre that's only existed for a little while up to that point. And so I really, really liked it. And something that I found pretty notable about that game is that the tone of it is just so strange. Sometimes there are very disquieting and strange things happening.
Sure.
And it sort of feels like I am watching the world through Ness's eyes in a lot of those situations, and how he grapples or understands certain things, And it really didn't, a lot of the events were strange and bizarre, but in a just kind of high sci-fi fantasy way. And the last, I would say 10% of that game really starts hitting you with some shit at the very end of it. The rest of it is still kind of oh, this is weird. Oh, that was bizarre.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But the last little bit, they're hey, we got some shit in here for you.
Yeah. Have you been paying attention?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Just very metaphysical stuff going on in the end of that game. And so I thought it was really, really wonderful. And again, I was really not expecting to as much as I did. It was long as hell, a very lengthy game. I definitely used a guide to just sort of make sure I knew who to talk to in the right spot and shit like that. Of course. And that made it a lot more enjoyable for me of if there was ever a moment where I was wait, what am I doing? I would just immediately pull up the guide and be oh, just go over there. Okay. Because there's some stuff that's you need to go to this town, and part of the game is just wandering and being I wonder where that person I'm supposed to meet is. But other times it's just such obtuse, strange decisions for well, how would I know how to do that? Or that be the thing that I do? Again, an era where game guides were a very popular thing. So, Brady Games could make some more money if there was weird shit in Earthbound or whatever. But even still, I had a great time with it, and I kind of left it at that. And I mean, what Mother 3 is, right? I feel just being a fan of video games for so long, you hear about this kind of stuff. For anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, Mother 3 is a game that came out only in Japan, and it is a sequel to Earthbound in some ways. I think to say any more would be to spoil a lot of things, but it came out after Earthbound, but never came here. And I feel it took a while for me to hear about this, but I feel it kind of the 2009, 2010 era, you started to hear people be really be loud with why hasn't Nintendo brought Mother 3 over here? Yeah. Because it came out in 2006 in Japan. And so there's this fan translation that came out in 2008. And I think that kind of clued people in the English speaking world of oh shit, we really missed something by not having this game here.
Yeah.
And so I've heard that for a long time. I've just heard over and over again of people are huge fans of Mother 3. And I feel with some games, and we know this having done this show, some games that people are this is a total cult classic, totally revered, and some people think that this is the best game ever. Yeah. I get that. And I think that also some of that is just people saying you need to play this game because there's something special in here. And that sometimes that whole experience doesn't hold up, there is a cool thing in there, but it's also this feels like a 7 out of 10, I don't think that's inaccurate. Not to really put a label or a number on it, but just I think that there is a difference between people saying hey, everybody should play this weird little game that I found, and also a game that people have been pleading with Nintendo, please bring this over to the States because other people should experience this. I've also been listening to Into the Aether's maniacal, diabolical 15-hour episode that they recently put out.
That's impressive.
It's so bananas. They put out an episode navigating their games of the decade of 2000 to 2009.
Wow.
Yes. Wow is the correct response. I'm holy shit, that's such an endeavor. And they had brought up Mother 3 again. They had done a bonus episode about that back in 2001, or my God, 2021.
They've been doing this for a while.
Into the Aether went back in time and recorded a podcast in 2001 about Mother 3, a game that hadn't even come out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they were talking about it and like had a lot of kind things to say. I think, you know, it was both Steven and Brendan talking about it, and also their friend Will. All of them had sort of like differing opinions. I think Will was the warmest on that game at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, varying degrees of like, this is great, and also like kind of a challenging game to get into. But there's just like some stuff from 2006 that is like hard to deal with. Some of it gameplay, some of it narrative. But
yeah,
all of that said, I was still like, I should just fucking play this game. Like, I've heard about it for so long and I've barely touched it. Like, haven't even tried, haven't even given it the time of day.
Yeah.
You know, I played through Earthbound, so like, why wouldn't I feel like I'm primed for this? I was also like poking around on my Ain Odin and just happened to launch it. Like, I was like playing around with like other ROMs and shit and just was like, I like, let me just at least look what the title screen of this game looks like. And check that out. Fired it up into like hey, choose your character's name. And it was just like immediately gorgeous. And like the pixel art is amazing. This was for the Game Boy Advance. And so like that era of kind of design.
We talked about it before. We love it.
Yeah, really, really big fan of like what games look like on the GBA if you can make good pixel art. And it was depicting Lucas, who, you know, seen from Smash Brothers, like that's a person I know. Lucas, his brother Klaus, his mom and dad, and his dog, and they're all just kind of hanging out and playing in this like character like naming screen. I'm like, this looks really cool. I got to check this out. This was a ruse. This is a cute little ruse that they pulled on me, David. The game immediately just punches you in the teeth with all the shit that's going on in there.
I believe it.
But let me not bury the lead. This game is incredible, and I am totally enraptured with it. I am sort of surprised that it has taken me this long to try it, but holy hell, it is a lot. Where to start? So just like some high level shit. One of our listeners had suggested that we play this, so thank you to Mark Senni. They'd said it changed me forever. Shigesato Itoi's magnum opus, which is the like writer and sort of like strong creative hand behind this game, is Shigesato Itoi. He's only made a few games, and like this and Earthbound and Mother are like some of them, you know?
Yeah.
To explain a little bit about like what happens, I'm probably going to talk about like the first kind of major beat in this game. So like be wary of spoilers for the first hour or so of this game. But you started up and like you play like just briefly as Lucas kind of wandering around the house of his grandfathers. And so it's him, his mother, and his brother and his grandfather all just kind of like hanging out in this idyllic like cabin, essentially. They like go to some other part of the mountain, and his brother's like practicing like running into the Dragos, I think they call them. It's like kind of like dinosaur looking characters, and they're seemingly docile, which is sort of bizarre. But yeah, they're just like having a kind of nice time. And Hinawa, the Lucas's mom, writes a letter to Flint, who is her husband, who's like in like a southern part of the town. I think he's like maybe the sheriff of this town that they live in. Just like, hey, we're having a good time. Wish you were here. The boys are having a good time. Essentially, like, love you. Have a great time. And there's like kind of a bit of a perspective shift, and suddenly there's this like fire that has broken out in the forest between the town where these people live and then the forest cabin that Hinawa, the two boys, and their grandfather are in. And people are freaking out. They come and get Flint, the dad, who, you know, the letter was just addressed to. And they're like, hey, like there's a fire up there. Like, we need your help. We need you to come like fix this. And so you start playing as Flint, which I was immediately was like, hey, what the fuck is going on here? This is pretty different. Because in Earthbound, like there's definitely some character shifting, but like you play as Ness most of the time. But yeah, just I was like, okay, we're already dealing with something different here. Like, this is strange. But you essentially, as Flint, you are trying to like figure out like, why is this shit on fire? A lot of the animals have kind of gone wild and are being aggressive in weird ways. And the culmination of all this is that you, as Flint, and again, spoilers, but this is kind of the setup of the game, you find your boys, you find Klaus and Lucas after they have been, you know, gone through this kind of like fire, but they're okay. And they're like, hey, we found your boys, but we also found that Hinawa had been killed by one of these Dragos, these like essentially dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Which leads to this like just kind of gut-wrenching scene of Flint essentially having a breakdown of like, I can't handle that at all. He essentially like goes over and smashes the like fire that these people are huddled around and like starts taking it out and just like hitting the ground and hitting shit. And like the people around him clearly like it's amazing that they can do this on the GBA, but they're all like essentially trying to calm him down of like, hey, can you like relax a little bit? And he starts like lashing out at them and like trying to hit them and shit. And then eventually he's knocked out and, you know, kind of subdued. And then you wake up in the jail that people are, they note in the game, like nobody's ever had to be in here. Like we've never used the jail. And you get this kind of like scene where they talk about like, there is this kind of corruption that is starting to spread through this town. Ooh. And this is kind of the first thing that has happened in it. No. Bananas, Dave. This shit is crazy. Like, dang. What a swing narratively, right? Like, I think to subvert the kind of expectation of players, and, you know, we're at, 2006, 7? That's already kind of happening, right? Like, games are playing with the medium of video games already. Yeah. And sort of trying to be like, what do we need to be? What can games be? Do you always have to play the same role? And so to put you in this position of like being this big, strong hero named Flint, and you need to go, you know, kind of save a woman, save a princess in this case, and having you fail immediately is so wild. Yeah. And to show that in a way that is not like just a text box of somebody saying like, you know, Flint felt bad or something like that, to show it in that way is like jarring and moving in a way that I was not expecting to feel in this game. Earthbound is also a really moving game at a lot of moments, but I don't think they had even the confidence of like animation in this way that this game does immediately. It's absolutely bananas. And so like every event after that is usually equally as nutty. And essentially, like, I'm just speaking in broad strokes, but you spend a lot of time in this town. Like it's not like you were going on this big grand adventure like Earthbound, where you're going from like, you know, one village to the next village to the third village. Again, all of them are named like 2 something, 3 something, 4 something in Earthbound. Whereas like it just takes place in Tazmily Village. With, you know, you go out to other like spokes of this town, like to go to different like locations, but it all kind of centers around this one location. And there are pretty significant time jumps in there too. And so, you know, the first one's maybe, I think it's like a month or 2 afterwards, but like there are some where it's like years, you know, and you jump kind of far into the future. And it's really wild and sometimes moving and sometimes beautiful to see what has come of these places. And other times like heartbreaking and devastating. Like this place was, they're trying intentionally to make it look just idyllic in the beginning. Like they said, nobody knew what like sadness was up to this point, you know? Wow. Like, that had not come to this village before. They seemingly were in total harmony with all the animals, right? Like this child could go and play with this like essentially Tyrannosaurus Rex that is in the forest, and it was like playing back with
no problems.
So safe. They didn't have like money. Whenever you go to the like store in the beginning, they're just like, here's some stuff that we have. Take it if you want to.
Chase is here for this.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I like that shit. But I think the whole point of the intro is to show you like, look at how perfect it can be. And then I think the arc of the game, at least to the point where I'm at chapter 7, I think 7 of 8. And it just shows you the changes that happen here. And like I said, some of which are beautiful and some of which are just like brutal and devastating. It's like the opposite of, do you remember that like Happy Tree Friends, that like show from like the 2000s where
the
it was like,
or whatever it was?
Yeah, it's sort of bizarre. It's totally not the same thing, but like that strange version of a show where like the aesthetic layer is very chipper and the other shit is bananas and like very adult. This game does not have that kind of weird like violence in it, but it reminds me of a similar idea of like the game looks so nice and so pretty all the time and is also just depicting like, oh my God, like I can't believe that they have shown me this kind of like devastating loss in this game, you know?
Yeah.
Like imagine if you were playing Pokemon Fire Red and after you got your first badge, they're like, hey, we got some bad news about your mom. Like what?
Ooh,
you know,
man.
like Because it looks like that. It looks like a children's game.
Yeah.
And so like I am totally bowled over by it at the moment. I truly can't stop playing it because I'm just so curious about like what goes on in this game. So yeah, I think like they're masters of using tone in this game. And again, in contrast to Earthbound, where the last 10% is the wild part, this game is punching you immediately with the wild stuff that's going on here and is saying stuff so quickly and furiously that I was kind of just like taken by surprise in a way.
Yeah.
I think people pretty frequent the refrain about like what this game is about grief. And I think that that's a very cool lens to look at this game from, because like, you know, the game does not brush by the fact that, you know, there has been this huge loss in the community in Hinawa's death, right? And you see how it affects everybody, right? Like from the townspeople to more directly Flint and Klaus and Lucas as well.
Yeah.
And that doesn't go away. Like that's kind of the whole story of the game, is them dealing with this and what happens with that. Which is just like, I can't believe that they commit to this, you know?
That's impressive.
Like, again, 2006 was like, we were getting in more interesting stories, but like not like this, you know? I feel like indie games would start to tackle this stuff much later, you know? Obviously, like the Undertale connection cannot be overstated. You fire this up and you're like, I see. Okay, I got you. Because like this game and Undertale do that very wild thing that is so hard to pull off, where it can be so funny in one moment and then the exact next moment is like heartbreaking, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And is like genuinely funny a lot of the time, like genuinely really silly and weird shit going on, talking to, you know, ghosts who are like, hey, what's going on, dude? Like, I'm in this room just telling you about this box. Can you like leave now? Or something like weird shit that like, that's not how NPCs in games talk.
Could be.
It could be, and it is here, but like it is such a divergence from the trends that I have grown used to. Yes. And even now, it's like that still feels different.
Still feels fresh.
Yes, yeah. So I think that this game sort of subverting a lot of like gaming tropes is part of it, you know? I think it very intentionally and frequently takes power away from you in ways that are meaningful. Like you start playing as Flint and he's just the biggest, baddest dude in town, wears a little cowboy hat and just like does so much damage to all these enemies.
Yeah.
And the very next chapter you are playing as someone...
cowboy hat. I love that.
That's
how you know he's a bad dude.
He always like kind of, you know, tips it whenever he like is done with the conversation or whatever.
Very Particio-esque.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But the very next chapter you're playing is somebody incredibly different than Flint. And you don't even really start playing as what I would consider the main character, Lucas, like until pretty well into the game. Like I think it's in chapter 4 where you're even in control of him for the first time. So even that is like, you know, I love it when they make you play as Raiden and Metal Gear Solid 2.
I
so,
do know you love that.
I'm all about them intentionally changing the perspective to say something different. It also like is totally comfortable with taking its time with some of the narrative beats, like really making you kind of just like sit and listen to the sound effects or the music, which is also just like gorgeous. The soundtrack on this is bananas. But there is like a level of devastation and honestly sometimes cruelty from some of the characters in this game that are like, they wouldn't be out of place in like The Last of Us, you know?
Oh God.
It just so happens there's nothing I would say that violent in The Last of Us, but like genuinely like, oh my God, this is like a terrible person that they are showing me right now.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I hate you.
Yeah, you are not good. You're like truly not a good person at all.
Yeah.
And to be able to be like confident about that is just bananas. I guess it's worth mentioning too that like this is a fan translation that I'm playing. This never got localized to the States.
Wow, really?
Yeah, no, it's still Japan only.
Wow.
But the quality of the fan translation is pretty wild. It is really in a good way, really, really good way. Like it feels like this was not just run through Google Translate, right? This did not take a trip through the Strait of Esperanto. Like, yeah, I think if you're looking at something that was originally in Japanese and the jokes are still landing in English, that to me is a sign of like, this has done well in translation, because like that is such a hard thing, let alone in English, just to write good humor in a video game. Yeah. But like famously, like translating humor from Japanese to English is a very hard thing to do, because there's like the words aren't really one-to-one, and something that might work in Japanese does not work in English, you know, you know, say it's like an alliteration joke or something like that. Like that's not really going to work in English because the words for things aren't the same.
Mm-hmm.
Or just like, you know, it is dependent on a different set of cultural touchstones.
Yeah.
That like we as Americans don't have. Like we don't have the same kind of like understanding of shit, you know? And so to be able to do that, I think is like kind of a feat that I'm like really, really impressed with. I am, having played a lot of it, I am truly not surprised that Nintendo has not updated this and not brought this back.
Mm-hmm.
A, because it is so heavy and so intense. Like this would feel really out of place as a first party Nintendo game that came out this year.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. Well, they do have like, that creepy clown game that they've been teasing. Did you see that?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I have no clue what's going on.
This is Nintendo's turn.
Mother 3 will be out next month.
Yeah.
But like just the content of it is so challenging in a way that like it's hard for me to imagine Nintendo putting their stamp on it now.
Mm-hmm.
And also like I think their treatment of queer characters in this game is pretty bad, like pretty brutal, and like, you know, it's very of its time, but I think you would have to do something about them.
Sure.
Like they're just kind of cruel to the queer characters here, and in a way that kind of makes them feel like caricatures, and it's painful to experience. And so like I would fear that they would do the Persona 3 thing where they're just like, nope, they're not queer anymore, or like we're just going to take them out entirely, which sucks.
Right.
Or
now it's queer erasure.
Yeah, it's erasure, or like they will do nothing, and that also sucks, right? Like then you're kind of putting a rubber stamp on that. And like, you know, the one maybe example as of late is that they have, you know, confirmed and, you know, made canon the fact that Vivian in Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is trans, like that is a part of her character.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can see like maybe there is a way that they could make this work, but I have to imagine that they're looking down that barrel and they're like, this is too many things for us. Like we can't do this. So like I think that there are a lot of these hacks and ROMs and shit like that Nintendo very frequently just goes after people for, and they have notably not done that for this fan translation since 2008, whenever this came out. And so like they have known about it for a long time and they haven't done anything about it. So that feels like intent to me. Like if it was out for a year or something like that, like, okay, maybe not. But like,
sure,
there was that like total remake of Super Mario Sunshine where they made like new levels and new shit. Yeah. And that got like nuked from orbit immediately.
Sure, you know? Did.
Whereas this one has not. And so either they don't consider Mother to be like something that is, you know, a first class citizen, or they're just like, well, we can't do that. We can't put that out. That's way too much, you know? For a company that like made you download the like mature adults only section of the N64 like emulator on Switch, like I just doubt that they would be willing to be like, yeah, the mom dies immediately in this one, you know? And like, understandably, that's heavy content for a kid to try and engage with. I don't think a child would be incapable of doing that, but it's heavy. It's really intense, right? But good Lord, I think that there is so much of value here, and I'm so pleased to be finally playing through this.
Yeah. Release it, Nintendo. Kids can handle it.
I think so too, but I think if they are going to release it, like, I feel like they are kind of obligated to take a look at some of the content. Yeah. Specifically the queer content. Because like, that stuff is painful and hurtful and kind of represents a thought or a line of thinking that is very 2006 and I think very painful to experience in 2024. And it was then too, but just like, it's glaring at this point, I think, to anybody who plays this. Yeah, no, definitely change that stuff. Kids can handle like more intense themes than I think a lot of people understand. But definitely take out the stuff that could be harmful. Yeah, and I think the thematic stuff is done in a way that like you don't need to understand why a capitalist structure of the economy is painful. You just see like, why are these pig masked characters taking over and why are they rolling tanks into a place that like was so beautiful before or something like that? Like, why is there money now? Like all that kind of stuff. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot, right? I mean, genuinely, like you get to see this kind of stuff, those kind of changes in the town. So I think even as a younger person, you would feel the stuff that they're trying to say, even if you don't understand it necessarily. Yeah. So yeah, I think like, you know, this overall theme of feeling this like grief and mourning from these people, these characters, but also this town is just like such an amazing thing to be able to communicate on the fucking Game Boy Advanced. That is astounding. And I'm really just living for experiencing where that arc is taking me right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in chapter 7, which from my understanding is kind of the bulk of the game as far as playtime goes. And so I'm kind of just out here vibing. I hear the ending is bananas, so I'm excited to get there.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I have to imagine I will be done with it by next week. I'm flying through it. I'm also making liberal use of the fast forward function because, God, it just makes these like turn-based RPGs so much more
faster.
enjoyable for me.
Oh yeah.
Because like, you know, there are definitely times where it's like, okay, I got to throw this into regular speed and think about what I'm doing. But the random battle encounters, I'm like, I'm just going to hit A bunch and like, we're just going to punch them and that'll be it.
We're going through. Yeah. Give me the experience. Let's do this.
Yes. And like, I do like to experience it. I like to go from one place to another. And I like random battles. I just would like them to take so much less time than they do normally.
Yeah.
So that's been a real boon for me trying to play through this because then I can get to the stuff that's like truly interesting about this faster.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm using a guide too. So the moments where it's like, I don't really know what to do. I'll just check it out and be like, all right, well, let's check this out over here and go over to this place.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm pretty bowled over by it at the moment. I'm interested to see how this concludes and if it, you know, sticks the landing. I know that when Brendan was talking about it on their Mother 3 episode, the end of the Aether episode, he had some friction right towards the end. And I'm interested to see if I have that because I think a lot of that was based around the difficulty, but with the fast forward stuff, I do wonder if I'm kind of circumventing some of that because like grinding is not a thing that is painful at all.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I go out there for 5 minutes and just grind, it's easy. It's really, really easy to get like kind of over leveled. And that's like totally cool with me. I'm okay with that.
Oh yeah.
So I wonder if that will play into how this game lands for me.
Cool.
So yeah, that's all I've been playing is that video game.
Great. We're a couple of monogamous this week.
Yeah, one single game only.
Monogamous.
Monogamers. Anyway, David, this will bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week.
Which is?
That very same Into the Aether episode of the Games of the Decade. It is bananas.
That is impressive. 15 hours.
Crazy. As not just a consumer of that stuff, but also another podcaster, like I am so spent after like 2 to 3 hours of podcasting. And like, I know that they broke it up into a lot of different recording sessions, but like that is such a feat to be able to do that just from like the artistic and like work part of that. Past and future guest AJ had to edit that. And I'm just like, that is so much work.
This is their magnum opus for sure.
Yes. Yeah, that is so much. So it's been a real joy to hear their process for this too, because like, you know, you and I were both, I don't know, 9, 10 at the beginning of 2000 and, you know, we're graduating high school at the end of it. And so like, this was an incredibly important era, I think, for both of us. And there were also just like so many games coming out at the moment that like, it was kind of jarring to be like, there's just a mountain of video games that came out between those 10 years, you know? So it's been great to be like, oh yeah, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi did rock, didn't it?
Sure did.
Or like, you know, maybe Katamari Damacy is one of the best games I've ever played too.
I mean, I remember the hell out of it. I still think about it.
I still think about it a lot. Like it's still really with me.
I still hum that song.
Constantly. Yeah, like that at least once a week I'll, you know,
there's a small thread of my soul that is the Katamari Damacy intro.
Yes, yeah. So it's been cool to experience that and also just kind of reflect on like where would my list differ? What would be the thing that kind of sticks out to me? Because like a lot of our show is just that, is just looking at games from this era. I'd say that you and I are usually not looking for the best of the best from that era, but
not typically.
Yeah, so it's cool to kind of just see like what were the hits actually? What were the big ones? Eco's good as hell. Shadow of the Colossus good as hell. I think
I'd have to put Guitar Hero in there somewhere.
Yeah. They highlighted 100 games from the 10 years that were like, these are the ones we're going to put forward as, you know, the games of the decade. Man. And then they also narrowed it down to their top 5 and then the show's top 5 as well.
Ooh, 100.
It seems like a lot until you start listing out the games and then you're like, oh no, I don't have nearly enough room.
Yeah. Like what's number 100? Is that a spoiler?
Maybe a little, but like maybe it's like it's content spoiler, you know, like maybe it's a little bit of like, wouldn't it be cool to go and listen to this?
Yeah. Go listen to it, but I'm sure number 100 is still going to be like a damn good game that people are going to be like, that's number 100. What do you have above that? You won't believe what number 100 is.
Oh, they're separated by year, so I don't know if it's ranked like that.
Gotcha. Well, never mind then.
But yeah, like every one of the games is kind of inscrutable like that. I mean, yeah, that does need to be on there, you know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes sense. 10 per year. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you going to cut even one of these? Like, there's just an unbelievable amount of amazing games that were coming out at that time.
There really were. That was a special time in gaming.
Yeah. I think that there still are a lot that come out and a lot of really amazing games.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that games, the time of development was just a little shorter at that moment. And so like, you know, maybe the hit rate wasn't quite as high, but like, God, there was just an avalanche of them. And I feel like pretty frequently there would at least be a couple games a year that are like, wow, that's miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like the game as an experiment to see if this game needs a sequel or not is pretty uncommon these days. It's like, you got to hit it immediately and see if it's good. Whereas I feel like games in this era, like, I don't know if this is totally anecdotal, but like the sequel is usually the one where it's like, that's the good one, right?
Yeah.
Because the first one was like them figuring it out and trying to see like,
absolutely.
Is this worth it? Is this fun? Like maybe it is fun, but like, is it worth making another one?
Yeah.
To like continue doubling down on this shit?
Mm-hmm.
Because like, you know, even a game that we love, Kingdom Hearts 1, like I feel like it's pretty unavoidable that 2 is mechanically way better than the first one. You know?
God of War 1 and 2, Uncharted 1 and 2.
Assassin's Creed.
Big jump there.
Uncharted.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the burnouts weren't like amazing until the first one. Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Ratchet and Clank. Like the list goes on and on and on of the ones where it's like the second game is the one where they got it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, like the game companies right now, they want to skip that maybe risk of like putting out a stinker first one.
Yep.
And just go to the part where like, let's just make the best game ever. Let's skip
just
to the
make all the money.
Yeah. You know, it turns into situations where they're just like a lot less willing to take a chance on a Katamari Damacy or something like that.
Makes a lot of sense. Just think of those game development is a lot more expensive nowadays.
Yeah, it is. I think that's something that is changeable. It's workable.
Absolutely.
If game companies are, you know, willing to take kind of more but smaller or more risks on smaller games, I think it's totally possible that they could have a lot of hits, but they just want to have one big hit. They just want to have one big hit with Anthem or, you know, whatever.
Jetpacks are cool, but
jetpacks are cool.
You got to have other stuff.
I think if Anthem had come out in the 2000s, the first one would have also been bad, but the second one I think would have been really good.
Is Anthem on Game Pass?
I don't know. Maybe.
Should we play Anthem for the show?
Oh my God, that would be a wild ride.
But you're totally right. Anthem is a great example of a game that would have come out to like middling reviews in the aughts, and then the second one's like, oh, they figured Anthem out, baby. It's so good now.
Yeah, I feel like you saw a lot of that at the time. Like the first one was like, some people liked it, but like maybe they hadn't nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
Anthem would have been really great. Anthem 2, what could have been?
What could have been?
Dave, do you have something fueling your sense of optimism this week?
I do.
What is it?
It is the Who is Emio, the little teaser that Nintendo did.
Is this the clown thing?
Or the man with the bag with the smiley face.
Yes.
And the trench coat.
I don't really know what's going on here. I saw that they were teasing this and I kind of didn't really see what's happening. Do you have any more information?
That's pretty much it. They have a website that's called, I think it's all in Japanese, and you can go and visit it, but no one knows what it is so far as I know. So I'm just very curious to see if Nintendo is really going to do a horror game, or like maybe in true Nintendo fashion, it's going to be like Mario underneath there and it's going to just be a Mario game and they're just like doing a full bait and switch. But who knows? I'm very curious because it's so un-Nintendo, this whole entire situation and how it looks. But then what is very Nintendo is the Who is Emio writing is very kind of Nintendo-y.
It is, yeah. That does, like, they should be revealing like a very happy character.
Right? So maybe he's like a detective or something. I could see that with their trench coat, but who knows?
It's Waluigi under there.
It's Waluigi the whole time. I mean, that might be scarier.
Yeah, if this was just like real Waluigi, Waluigi.
My goodness. Yeah, or maybe Emio's you. Ooh.
Hit him with the fucking life cover person of the year 2007 or whatever it was.
The Emio ends with you.
Ooh, okay, now this I'm into.
It's so creepy. It's all staticky on the website.
I should probably play Neo: The World Ends With You, before asking for another entry in that series.
Probably. I think it got okay reviews from what I remember.
Yeah, I heard it was all right.
No, if you go to the website, the smiling bag turns into a very creepy face after a while. And it like the being in the video like slowly moves back and forth just a little bit. There's like a very small amount of motion to it. It's pretty creepy. I hope this is an ARG and nobody's like figured it out yet, that there's like something here. Yeah, I'm just curious. It's Tingle underneath there. That would be canonical. That feels appropriate. Tingle's going full mask off. Tingle's revenge. The mask on. Tingle's revenge. God, what does he need revenge on? He sounds like he is the aggressor. He does. Anyways, that is what's filling my Podtimism for the week. Wow, thank you, David. You want to move on to our main thing? Yeah, let's do it. Welcome to Good Games. It's a segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and gush all the things that we love about them. I tried to sound a little sinister to maybe actually get a scare out of you. I was not ready. Yeah. But I'm ready now. Hey, we're talking about Terranigma. We're here. It's Terranigma time, baby. It's Terranigma time. This was suggested to us by Toooldforfandom. I realized that the last time they had suggested a game, I read it tool, like a tool, a handy thing, for fandom, Toooldforfandom. And I'm like, wait, there's like just enough O's in there for this to be too old for fandom. So it all makes more sense now. No, it's tools for fandom. Yeah, no, just more. They really want you to accentuate the ooh. You need more oohs. They had suggested this to us saying that I feel like nobody talks about this game probably because it didn't get released in the US, not even for a re-release. But for me, it's one of the greats when talking about the SNES era RPGs. It has been years and years, but the ending is still burned into my mind. Which, having read the plot, holy shit, this game is bananas. Let me hit you with a few hot stats about this game before we move on. Please. Cool. Hot stats. So, Terranigma came out in Japan and the PAL region, so Europe, but not the US. It came out in Japan October 20th of 1995 and December 19th of 2006 in PAL, which is, I feel like I see that a lot more frequently of people who are like really into this game being like from European countries and stuff like that. Sure. Of like, oh yeah, I grew up in Germany and like everybody played this game. Like this game was huge where we were, but it's like largely not in the zeitgeist, at least in America. No, not at all. And like I'll go on to talk about like what other games they've made, but like even those I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. I've played that before. This was made by a company called Quintet, and I think the most notable games, at least for my money, that they have come out with is Robotrek, which is we've also got a suggestion to play that game, so maybe we'll check that one out soon. Illusions of Gaia, which is a game that I played and liked quite a bit. I like that one. That was a big, like, I just figured out what an emulator is, and I'm trying to play anything I can get my hands on game. Sure. And then ActRaiser 1 and 2 as well. So yeah, some video games. Some good games. I have a review from Joe Video of Terranigma, which I ran through Google Translate a number of times, one language into the other, to mangle it up real good and get an artist interpretation of what they said. So love it. I'm gonna read it for you, Dave. Let's hear it. If you like Quentin's early work, you'll love Terranigma. With a unique and realistic storyline, this beautiful game has the action feel that defines big Nintendo games. Unfortunately, this hasn't been seen in the media and only happened to a few players. But what they have done can prove that it is worth it. Yes, the challenges can be realistic, but they are worth it to even get the story. Terranigma is perhaps the title that most poetically evokes the SNF era, and they gave that an 8 out of 10. I think SNES got turned into SNF somewhere in there. That's beautiful. It's really nice. I really like the big SNF. We had Big Style last week. Now we got Big Sniff. We're living in the Sniff era. Brought to you by Quentin. Yeah, he's been doing great work. He put out another one. It's Christian name, Quentin. Could you tell me what this game is, David? Yes. Terranigma is a top-down action RPG for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It starts off in very typical fantasy RPG fashion. You are a young lad in a village and you accidentally kind of destroy everything, or not destroy everything, but mess everything up pretty badly. And then you have to go on an adventure to fix said mess up that you've done. It's a pretty good action. So it feels almost like a Zelda game, except you can sprint and jump. And there's a lot more of a like stat building RPG element as well. It's a pretty sweet little action RPG for the SNES. I didn't really think that formula had been cracked so far back, but it feels pretty darn good to play, honestly.
I was pretty surprised by that too. That really took me off guard.
I was expecting more plotting gameplay, you know?
Yeah, I feel like when we played Legends of Mana a couple of months ago or whenever that was, I was similarly surprised by that game of like, oh, they had like pretty good action RPG combat here. And so to see it, also be on SNES is like, Illusion of Gaia was also kind of like that in the sort of active combat of this era, which is cool. Like, I feel like you got it one of two ways at this time of like, it's a Link to the Past, like where like the combat is pretty good there, but it's also not like a stat based game or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's examples of this, all over the place. This is definitely not the first one to do it, but it was pretty surprising to see like, hey, this is pretty well done. Like the leveling feels good. And like the amount of weapons and armor that you can have all feel pretty distinct and interesting. And like, a lot of the weapons play pretty differently, so I don't know. I was also surprised by this.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's so strange that a game like this that has such a nice feel to its combat didn't make it to the United States when the US is, I guess, just general idea of what a JRPG is turn-based combat like a traditional Final Fantasy, whereas what a lot of Western developers started to do and like make inroads into making RPGs more of like a broader genre in the US, or a more popular genre in the US, is putting more action elements into them. So I'm just like, did people just think we weren't ready for this? We just get confused by it?
Yeah, it's very strange.
Or what? So it's strange that those two things are true, right? That JRPGs are turn-based in Americans' minds, but then also...
At least in this era.
But then they started becoming bigger when they put more action elements into this, and yet this game was sitting right here in the SNES era of just like, why didn't you just bring this over?
Yeah, it's surprising. I feel like there was such a push for so many years, and especially when you and I were like really playing a lot of games in like a PlayStation 2 era of like active combat is the move. Like that's the thing that makes a game interesting in the RPG genre, or at least for a little while that was the case. I don't think that's true across the board, and like obviously like Dragon Quest 8 was still a thing, and so like there were still a lot of games that were doing the turn-based combat, but like I think that was the push, and you saw that kind of with like the success of God of War and stuff like that. It's like, hey, this is what Americans want. And so it was surprising that like, why didn't it come out? It feels like that would be a shoe-in for like, American game ideas.
Not enough David Jaffe in it.
Yeah, needed more Jaffe up in this piece. And I think like even we've read interviews with a lot of like Japanese developers of the time, and I think the perception of Americans was that we got like information overload a lot of the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's true.
And so like, they constantly would be like, oh, we need to turn the difficulty down, or change the way that we tutorialize things through the Americans, because
let them know you don't have to learn everything right away. It's okay.
It's such a strange idea, but like I think that at least the marketing of video games would lead you to believe that like we want action games. That's the thing that like appealed to American gamers at the time. And like, again, I'm painting with a pretty broad stroke. That's of course not true for everybody. And I would be surprised if it was, even half. I bet there was plenty of people who were like, I don't want that at all. But that was kind of where the marketing push was of this era, is like, more action-based games, more sort of like violent-based games. And like, I don't mean that like with guns, but just like, any sort of punching or kicking or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So what did you think about this one?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like you said, the story, it seems crazy. I didn't get too far, so I'm curious to see what you're going to say about the story, but there are a lot of little hints that this world is very strange and wild in kind of fun ways. I think the character himself controls great.
Arc, yeah.
It feels weighty and good to move around in this world. The combat I thought was a lot of fun, honestly. Is it the most tactical combat ever? No, but it feels good to just go around and whack some people, and you have to kind of play the spacing game, just make sure you don't get hit back and just kind of run away. And I do like the different moves that you get. Like you have a jump move, and you have a dash move, and you have your regular move, and they all feel good and are useful in different situations. They're not just there for flair, which is nice. Yeah, it feels like they really kind of thought about, okay, how are people going to want to tackle different situations, and gave you different options to do that. I think the art style is great. It really looks, really pops off the screen. I love the use of color. And then I do love the moment where you leave your village for the first time.
Oh my God,
and you're like, it's going to do that thing in like a lot of RPGs of the time where, you know, you're in the little idyllic village. It has a top-down view, and then you go into the overworld, and then you're more of like a large sprite walking around like a continent, right, to go to the next village. And the world is fucked up. It's not good, what you think is going on. You're like, where the hell am I? There's like something weird happening above you, and like the elder had talked about like parallel worlds. You're like, what in the shit is happening? There's like lava. It looks like you're in Mordor, essentially, or like the last level of like it's like Bowser's Kingdom or something. It does not look good or inviting, and you have to go around and find all these different towers and go through those, and then it becomes this very different feel to this game, because you're like, oh, there's something weird going on. But Ark at the same time is like totally not disturbed by it, and he's like, I'm pumped, man. I am ready to go through these towers.
Such a strange character.
So I appreciate Ark for just being an absolute goober of a character as well. I wasn't crazy about Ark, if I'm like being real. He sounds like he's an actual rapscallion. Like one of the first things you have to do is go and apologize to people for like being a jerk.
Yeah, I kept being like, is this actually what happened? But all the characters are like, yeah, you really fucked up our house yesterday. Like, what are you doing?
Just some vandalism.
And so I have to assume that over the course of the game, he probably changes quite a bit, but he's very bizarre at the beginning. He's like genuinely like just kind of an asshole at the start. And I do wonder like how much of this is the quality of the translation versus like the original writing, you know?
Sure.
I guess that's probably not true though, because it came out in PAL, so there had to have been a English version of this. Yeah. But even still, you know, Final Fantasy VII had a pretty rough translation the first time. So like maybe that was just the case then.
That's true. But there are some things that he actually physically does that are suspect, like throw some jars at a door to get through it. It just breaks down a door by throwing jars at it. A door that people have explicitly told him, never go in there, Ark.
Yeah. So yeah, like I wasn't, once I got into the combat, I'm like, okay, perfect. Here's the game that I want to play.
This is why people put up with you, Ark. You're good at combat.
Yeah. But I will say once I beat that first dungeon, I was like, oh God, okay, yeah, I'm way into the story, whatever the hell's going on here. To explain, essentially the first little bit of the game is that you're supposed to go and just like ascend these 5 towers that the elder of your village has told you to go and like, you know, fight the enemies in there, climb to the top, and you will be able to undo this like curse that Ark has opened up on this world.
Don't they say something like you're going to be able to control the world or something like that?
A little bit, yeah. After you beat the first tower, it shows a map of seemingly Europe and puts it onto the screen and says, I think it's Europa saved or something like that, or Europa revived.
Ooh.
And I'm like, hey, what?
What is going on here?
What is this game? So here's what I'm going to propose, because every part of it is just bananas. I would love to just go full Wikipedia mode and read you the plot of this game.
Please.
It's bananas. Listener, I will put a timestamp if you just can't stand listening to me to talk about this game for a few minutes, but like, it's a wild ride.
Do the blue crystal have to play a part in it?
Sort of, yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so the first chapter of the game, the outset, introduces Ark, a mischievous boy who lives in Krista, the only village in the underworld. After opening a forbidden door and touching a mysterious box containing a friendly demon named Yomi, every citizen in the village is frozen. The only person not affected by the curse, the Elder, guides him to resurrect the continents of the surface world in order to unfreeze the people. For the first time ever, a human leaves Krista to explore the underworld, which is portrayed as a frozen wasteland of imposing crystal mountains and rivers of magma. He conquers the Trials of the 5 Towers, each representing one continent, and revives the mainland of Earth. Upon returning to his hometown, the Elder instructs him to travel to the surface world and to resurrect all living beings. Ark says goodbye to his lifelong devoted friend El and sets out for the light side, is what they describe this as. That's the first bit of this game. So immediately, you're in hell. You're in actual hell. That's where you grow up. The underworld. And it's sort of suggesting like something has happened on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
The little like blue crystal in the beginning was also like, I come from a different place. And the elder is like, we're supposed to keep these places separated. Also, the reason that the overworld looks so bizarre with the kind of like top part of it is because you're supposed to be wandering around essentially the inside of the earth. So it's just a big ball that you're like wandering around.
Gotcha.
Amazing, cool. It says, in the second chapter, Resurrection of the World, after having crossed a dimensional crevasse, Ark is confronted with the barren land that was once the Earth's surface. His first task is to free the giant tree Ra from a parasite that is afflicting him. This causes the resurrection of all plants in the world, helping Ark to cross the mountains of Guyana. He travels further into the world, reviving birds, the wind, animals, and eventually mankind.
Whoa.
Oh my God, you guys. They really do this like cool bait and switch where they make you feel like just a regular kind of like RPG dipshit. And then they're like, actually, you have the power of a god. You just didn't know it yet.
Great.
Okay, last few paragraphs here. In the third chapter, Resurrection of the Genius, the Elder appears to Ark in a dream and tells him to keep helping humanity grow, as the world is still in its fledgling stages. He continues his journey, traveling and expanding cities, assisting with the invention of groundbreaking technologies, and also, much to his surprise, encountering a light-side twin of El, who lives as the adopted daughter of a French king, but was rendered mute by a traumatic event in her childhood. Ark manages to break this condition, and over time, Princess El begins to go close to him. In continuing to follow the Elder's commands, Ark ultimately awakens the ingenious Beruga, a scientist who survived the destruction of the previous world by hiding himself in cryogenic sleep.
Beruga?
Beruga provides Ark with an insight into his personal image of paradise, a perfect world where all insignificant life is killed with a virus named Asmodeus, and everyone else is made immortal by turning them into zombies. Ark tries to attack Beruga after this revealing twist, but is stopped by robots, injuring him severely in the process.
Oh my God.
Continues. The Elder once again appears to him, saying that his mission is fulfilled and he may now pass away. Ark realizes that he has been used by Dark Gaia, the devil, whose plans of world dominations required Ark to resurrect the planet. Just as he is about to die, Kumari, a wise human who watched the world's growth through reincarnation, teleports Ark out of Beruga's laboratory. He then instructs him to go search the 5 starstones, lay them at the graves at Time's End in order to call the Golden Child. Ark obtains the stones one after another and sets them into skull statues at Dry Vale, the location at the South Pole, where the final confrontation between God and the devil once took place. This leads to the appearance of Ark's light side self, the person Dark Gaia used to create Ark himself. His light side self reveals to him that he, the underworld Ark, is the legendary hero and then kills him.
Whoa.
However, in the fourth and final chapter, Resurrection of a Hero, Ark is reborn as a baby through the soul of the surfaced world, Light Gaia. He is then kidnapped by Darkside El, who is led there by Yomi, the little demon from the beginning, to eliminate a threat to Krista. When she realizes that this threat is actually Ark, she allows him to awaken as the legendary hero and grow back into an adult in the process. Yomi then decides to kill Ark by himself and reveals himself to have been working for Dark Gaia all along. He fails, as Darkside El sacrifices herself to kill Yomi and save Ark's life. Yomi is conveniently replaced by a light version. Afterward, Ark departs to defeat Beruga. After he conquers the professor...
So he just waited his whole life to get old enough to fight Beruga again?
That much I am unclear on. Like, was this an Ocarina of Time thing where he just became an adult? Or, like, did he have to wait 20 or 30 years for that to happen? I don't know.
Man.
After he conquers the professor, he returns to the underworld to defeat Dark Gaia. The victory over that entity brings forth the destruction of the dark side. In the end, Ark realizes that as a creation of Dark Gaia, he, along with the village of Krista and the underworld, shall now vanish with the devil's demise. Though it is implied that he and his loved ones in Krista will be reincarnated. He goes to sleep after being told by Light Gaia that he, as creator and defender, is what the humans would call a god. Ark's last dream pictures him as a bird flying above the world that he helped to exist, watching it grow older. An epilogue plays which shows Lightside L at her original home. There's a knock at the door, and she answers it, and the game ends.
My God.
What? They were cooking.
They were cooking, man. Wow.
10 out of 10 just for the name Beruga alone.
Beruga is amazing.
That is an exceptionally evildoer sounding name.
I would never resurrect someone named Beruga. I'm like, no Beruga is staying in cryogenic sleep. I ain't touching Beruga.
I'm sorry, he's got an idea with a virus called Asmodeus? Absolutely not.
Asmodeus. It's so good.
That is crazy.
Wow. How
incredible.
long is this game?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's like 50 hours, 60 hours?
I have to imagine this is not a show. What the fuck? How long to beat says 16 hours for this game. I felt like it took me 16 hours to just read the plot synopsis.
That is insane. So when they go to Antarctica to summon the Golden Child, the light side arc comes and kills him, and they don't explain that. And like, did they summon the Golden Child? Is the Golden Child God? Does God come? Does nothing happen?
I don't know.
We need a deeper wiki. We need the fan wiki.
Yeah, I need to go one layer deeper. Mm-hmm. Or we should just play the rest of this.
Or just play the rest of it. Man, that is insane. That's great.
Unbelievable. I love that. That is all so out there and is just like, I feel like they're like, any idea we have, I need you to roll with it because this is very fun.
Yeah, we are cooking right now. Everything is going in the pot. No bad ideas. Let's go.
I love RPGs that are totally comfortable existing in a small scale, but I also love an RPG that's like, you remade life on Earth, you know?
Yeah,
like
you are God.
You're essentially playing as one of the like sages in Ocarina of Time or something. Like in that cutscene where they're like, yeah, the Earth was terrible for a long time, but then like Din came through and like made life, you know?
Yeah. You're like, Din is my homie.
Yes. And that's like essentially who you're playing as here, which is like very fun again that they do the kind of bait and switch of like, yeah, Ark is just like some local dipshit who doesn't know what he's doing.
He's going around fucking up the Weaver's stuff, being an asshole.
He's got you apologize is your first mission here. But then, you start resurrecting continents and making life.
It is the absolute epitome of the meme. Mission level 1, go apologize. Level 99, kill God. Or kill become God in this sense.
Yeah, I think so. Both kill bad God and also die yourself because you are of the dark realm. I also love that they're just like, it's the devil. God and the devil is really fun. Like not real even biblical. Just like, yes, like this world's version of a God. Like no, the Christian devil.
Yeah. They went in their Judeo-Christian bag and pulled out a heater.
So that is a real joy. I remember that Illusion of Gaia was also pretty nutty with the story that it was telling. So like, I really appreciate that they were really taking a swing with this one.
Absolutely.
That is like somehow higher fantasy than a lot of Final Fantasy stuff, but is also like, it's Earth. It's actual Earth, the place that they're talking about.
It's Europe, baby.
So for the story alone, that is a real joy. And then, just like, I think most of the other stuff surrounding it is also like pretty great.
Yeah.
Like the actual mechanics of it are all a joy. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of bad stuff to say about this.
Same.
Other than like, maybe the writing is a little wonky.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes seems that the translation is not great, but I think that adds to the charm. Honestly, it's not like game breaking or anything. It doesn't take me out of the experience. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think our tolerance may be kind of high for that stuff too. Just like, I've played a weird game from this era before. It's not what's totally foreign to me. Yeah, what's another weird little one? I am really surprised that this has not come stateside, if I'm being real. Like we had already said this, but like this seems like a shoe-in for a game that like is released on the Switch now or something like this. Or like on the Switch SNES emulator or whatever it is.
That's
online.
what I'm saying. Yeah. Like this totally feels in line of like, and we released Demon Crest and Terranigma for the Nintendo Switch Online.
And then everyone's like, you released what and what? I have no idea what those are, but okay.
The Americans would be like, what on earth is this? But like seemingly everybody else would be like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Japan and Europe are like, yes.
Finally.
I mean, it seems like it's pretty well earned that this is seen as like a great game in a lot of other places.
I would love for more people to play this one. And like I said, I'm sure that is a pretty American opinion because it does sound like this was pretty popular elsewhere. So I guess I should say I would love for more Americans to play this.
Yes. Yeah. I'd love to be more of a discourse with the people that I talk to games about on a regular basis.
Yeah. And like, if it's only 16 hours, like that's fun. That's good.
Yeah, that's a nice short game.
Yeah. Again, a rarity for this era. Every review that we read is usually like, oh, it's under 50 hours. That shit's not worth it.
Yeah. Exactly. You're not going to be playing it for the next 2 years? Don't buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see this get ported over to the States. Again, like going back to the Mother 3 conversation, there's so much that Nintendo would need to work around to get Mother 3 in the States, but like I think you could just unless there's some wild turn later in the game that like is horrible and they would need to address, like I feel like you could just put out that version directly and it would be like totally fine. I feel like people are a lot more open to this kind of game now too. Like, this plays almost like a Binding of Isaac kind of combat or like any of those top down, like not Hades exactly, because I think Hades is a lot more frenetic, but like it's that top down kind of action that is pretty popular still.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like it wouldn't feel quite as dated as like, if you put out like a super old RPG from this era.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It feels good to move. It's responsive.
I love Ark's gait where he like walks with his arms like way up next to his shoulders and shit.
He's so really moving. He's ambulating with that whole body.
Yeah. That thing is moving. That thing is thanging.
That thing is thanging. By thanging, we mean walking.
Yeah. And him, we mean Ark. Yeah, exactly.
And him is hemming.
Yeah. What a joy. I don't have much to say other than like, damn, game pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know if it's has a lot in the way of like thematic elements that it's trying to convey. It's just a crazy story with good gameplay.
I am totally okay with just nutty story.
Yeah.
I would be willing to bet that if we played this all the way through and had more time to kind of sit with the beats, that we would come away with some actual thematic shit.
Yeah.
I like watched some interviews with some of the creators of this game and like they were really thinking when they were making the story of this game. So like I have to imagine that there is some interesting shit going on there. I know that like they had talked about, being kind of a passenger in these actions in the way that like Ark doesn't exactly know what he's doing, but he's doing it anyway. And that like, that rings very true of like a Metal Gear Solid kind of story, playing with like, do you have choice and agency in this matter? And like, if you do, what does that mean? And if you don't, also, what does that mean? And so I think this kind of story of being manipulated by like forces much larger than you on sort of a like almost religious scale.
Yep.
That like, there's some
not
shit
almost
going on
religious scale. An actual
devils,
religious scale. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I bet there might be some stuff in here that like, if we devoted more time to actually playing it that we might be able to latch on to. There's also like some very touching and intense scenes in this game. There's like one, I don't know, a couple hours into the game where you're running from this avalanche and you get stuck in a cave with a goat.
Ooh.
And the goat talks to you and is like, hey, it looks like we're kind of snowed in here. They like walk over and there's another goat on the ground that's like dead. And Ark is like, do you know this person or this goat? And the goat's like, yeah, this was my husband. I think he fell down and like took a tumble in a weird way and now he's dead.
Oh my God.
And they just like, I was like, oh my God. And they sort of like talk about this for a while. The sun goes down and like Ark can't see anything and he's like cold and the goat's like, just come over, hang out with me. That's fine. Like I'll warm you up. The next morning they're both like, we're really hungry. Like, what are we going to eat? The goat is like, well, my dead husband is right there and it's cold. So like, he's probably safe to eat still. And Ark is like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I can't do this. And the goat's like, no, like the reason I can eat him is because he's my husband. Like he would want me to continue this like cycle. And us to survive and maybe have a chance of getting out of here. So,
yeah,
I think you should be comfortable doing that. All after this, like Ark is like, hey, can you just try hitting this wall with your horns? And then they immediately get out. Well, they go to another room and then the goat's like, oh, you're going to have to climb up here. I can't get out of here with you though.
Oh no, goat.
I know. And then the goat is like, there will be other times in your journey where you feel stuck like this. And I want you to remember the feeling of getting out of here.
Whoa. Is this an underworld goat?
I think this was a normal world goat. I think this was on the surface. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not positive, but I think that's where it was.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to play this game. I'm going to play the rest of it. That's great. Totally
wild game. I had a great time visiting this one. So Too Old for Fandom. Thank you for suggesting.
Yeah.
I had a great time.
Good game.
Hello gamers, it's me, Chase, in the outro. Welcome. Despite the fact we tried not to make a very long episode, here we are at an hour 40 minutes. Doing our thing.
Happens.
Talked about 3 video games.
We talked about a lot of butter baths though.
We did do that, yeah. If you want to check out the podcast a little bit more, we have a website called podtimism.com. Where you can go and check out our stuff. It's got a list of games that we've played before if you want to search that and see if we've covered one that you like. You can also suggest a game there if you want to suggest one for us to play, like Toooldforfandom did. It's also got a link to our Discord. We are a part of the Worst Garbage podcast network that has a Discord where everybody lives and hangs and talks and chats. Very busy this time of year with the End of the Aether premiere. So a lot of movement in there right now. So come hang out. It's a good time. A lot of conversations about The World Ends With You after last week's episode. So that was a real joy.
Yeah.
Also, hey, The Worst Garbage, thanks for having us on the network. Love to be here. Love to hang. And it's an exciting time, fun time of year, doing a lot of bonus stuff. Going to have a cool episode for y'all next time, I believe, as well. So get ready for that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. If you want to help out the show, you can do a couple things. One is review the show on a podcast catcher like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, anything like that. It genuinely does help push the algo a little bit and get somebody who might not have heard of the pod in front of their face to be like, I wonder if I like this. The other thing that is much more helpful is just word of mouth to be like, hey, here's a podcast that I think you might like, which I know can be strange, especially if somebody is like, you got one podcast rec and you're going to give it, but it really does help. And I think that's most of the way that we have grown so far. Yeah. So A, thank you for people who are doing that. And B, if you do that, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's your one podcast rec per month.
It's tough. Yeah, I feel like.
What are you going to use it on?
You can't throw them out ruthlessly, because like I would say most people, unlike myself, I'm a podcast freak. I'm ready to consume so many podcasts, but most people are not that way. They got just a handful that they want to check out. So it's a big swing. And so I appreciate anybody who has taken that swing for us. Thank you, Scott Wilkinson, for our podcast art. It's great and wonderful. And you can check out more of her stuff at ko-fi.com/humblegoat. And also, hey, listener, thank you for listening to this podcast. Having a great time here in summer. Sunny, and we're grateful to have a podcast and listeners and people to hang out and talk about video games.
Absolutely.
David, do you have any gaming wisdom for us?
I do.
What is it? Believe in the Christian God.
Is God a goat? Maybe.
In Terranigma, God is real.
God is real in Terranigma, and that goat
not necessarily
had some
Christian
advice.
God. He had some very good advice.
Good advice. That was a very grounded goat. That goat was the goat of goats.
They really knew how to have a healthy look at life and to know, like, I'm gonna mourn and I'm sad that they're not here, but also like we got to keep moving and keep on living.
Or that goat just killed her husband and was just like looking to eat him.
That goat is the devil.
Or that goat's the devil and just tried to get you into like some sort of weird ritual by eating the goat.
I love those old depictions of the devil where before artists, like Christian artists, really knew what's what. And it's just like a guy with like a pokey trident and shit like that.
Yeah.
That shit's so good to me.
Maybe some cloven feet.
Yeah. Just like kind of a weird dude. The worst people in the 50s could imagine the devil looking like is like a guy in a leotard with a mustache.
Covered in soot.
Yeah. Like those like horrible, brutal impressionist paintings of like hell and shit, like all the Goya paintings and stuff. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to exist there. But like just the little scampish guy. Love that guy.
It's like Industrial Revolution Britain. Like that's their devil.
Yeah, just a dude, a bad dude.
A bad dude.
Beruga, that's an actual devil. That's a bad
Beruga
guy.
is definitely a devil.
That's a Goya painting if I ever seen one.
Was Beruga working for Dark Gaia?
You know, David, who knows?
I think really the wisdom for the week is don't trust someone named Beruga.
Ah, yeah. Sorry, all Beruga heads out there, but like that's a pretty scary sounding name.
Like it just sounds like someone like sneezed or coughed and they're just like, that's the name of our villain. That's it.
It's Beruga time, baby.
It's Beruga time.
All right, see you next week, gamers.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.